What's up, fellow gamers? Phreak here, and I have a second preseason rundown video as we've got more information. Today, a video came out. It's about 9 minutes long. It's not all about preseason, but we got screenshots, and I spent a fair bit of time this afternoon putting them together, cropping and pasting, and doing moderate amounts of searching through all of them, and I have information to share that is somewhat beneath the surface of what's already there, okay? So in the description below, unless I really trolled, there should be a link to the video that I'm referencing here, which goes through a couple of gameplay screenshots and a couple of gameplay videos and talks about what's going to happen in the preseason. If you haven't been paying attention, Preseason 2021 is about an item update. 99% of the changes are going to be about items being changed around, and the primary thing going on, as far as I can tell from looking at this so far, is that they are sort of intentionally building mythic tier items for every champion. And what's interesting is they are not the ones I thought. Let's start with a quick high level sort of what they've said, what I think is true design-wise stuff. Of course, you can see here on the screen are some example items. We'll get into them in a little bit, but you might be reading them and ignoring me. It's okay. And so what they're doing, as far as I can tell, is building about 3 items per class, let's say, loosely class, and saying, okay, we're gonna build about 3 mythic tier items per class, and they're going to do different things. So, for example, Gale Force, Behemoth Slayer, and Crimson Shield Bow are 3 different AD carry, right, ranged marksman mythic items, and you can see they have the exact same cost at 3,400. They have very similar stat lines in 60 attack damage, 20-ish% attack speed, 20% crit chance, and then some changes when needed, right? So, and then different actives. And this is something I've talked about before on videos like this. I really like the Zeal system, where you're going to buy your second or third or fourth item on an AD carry. You're going to buy a Zeal and then upgrade it into Hurricane or Rapid Fire Cannon or Phantom Dancer or Static Shiv. And you can kind of decide a little bit later which one it's going to be. You can kind of wait a little bit into the game state, but your first, 1,400 gold or even 1,700 gold worth of items is going to be identical because you build a dagger afterwards. And then you say, okay, I want the shield, or I want the AoE, or I want the range, or the lightning, right? And I like that a lot because it does 2 good things, right? So one, it allows for some level of consistency where you kind of know what the output of the AD carry is going to be. They're going to get 25 crit and 25 or so attack speed and some move speed. But it also makes the itemization choices more obvious. Because instead of trying to compare, like, hey, what's better, 400 health and 50 armor and crit reduction, or 250 health and 80 armor and thorns? And, I mean, do I need health more? Do I need armor more? And it's just like, why not just have the items have the same stats, or almost the same stats, cost the same amount of gold, and just give you a unique passive that you kind of choose among? And it can certainly feel a little flat that, well, I'm always getting 60 AD and 20 crit and a dagger, and I'm really only choosing shield versus dash versus true damage on hit, but I still kind of like that. So let's pull up. This should hopefully go correctly. There we go. So this is one of the items, right? Crimson Shield Bow is actually 50 AD and not 60. I might have actually gotten that one wrong already. Let me double check. Crimson Shield Bow, in fact, is 58. There we go. We've changed the efficiency to be more appropriate. Okay, so bam. Right? I have attack damage, dex speed, crit, lifesteal. I get a shield. It's basically Phantom Dancer, right? Like, I would assume if Phantom Dancer was gone from League of Legends because of this existing. This is very much Phantom Dancer. Anyway, so it's like, hey, and then there's Behemoth Slayer, which is same cost, similar stats, but every third attack does bonus damage. I have Mythic Passive that gives crit damage. There's a Mythic Passive that gives armor and MR. We have Gale Force, same cost, similar stats. I have an active dash. My Mythic Passive gives Legendary Edda's movement speed. So, in the last video, I talked about giving champions death caps, right? Saying, hey, just give everyone the idea of an Infinity Edge or a death cap or some item that multiplies my other items and makes them more efficient, because that way I have this capstone that I really enjoy. I like this more. to be completely clear. I like this more in that I am, we're all kind of building a death cap. We're all kind of building Infinity Edge. We're all kind of building whatever. But a decent portion of the item budget is, well, I have a dash and I get up to 8% more move speed. Or I have true damage on hit and I get crit damage. Or I get a big shield and bonus armor MR. This is a pretty good way of saying, okay, this is the kind of game I'm going to be in. Go give me my 100% gold efficient item, which then also gives me more things, right? It also gives me more things after the fact. So this item is obviously absurdly efficient. Even without the mythic passive, right? It is 100% gold efficient and has an active, 100% gold efficient with an active, 100% gold efficient with an active. And then it keeps growing over time, which is pretty cool. Now, in a similar vein, Death Cap is also 100% gold efficient and then grows over time. That's why you can buy early Death Cap. But they have clearly placed these mythic items in a sort of power level where you can buy it first and feel fine. Debatably, maybe it should be second. It depends on exactly how gold efficient other items are. But it's gold efficient with an active that then grows in efficiency over the course of time. So that's pretty cool, right? So we have mythic items. We then have new ones that aren't mythic. Cursed Demon Helm is a non-mythic item. We can pull up the arted version of this, right? It's 3,000 gold, it's a little bit cheaper. It very much has Leandri's Torment's stat line. It, in fact, applies Leandri's Torment's burn to reset max health for 4 seconds. But then also you gain an absurd amount of armor into MR over time. And this seems to stack infinitely, by the way. This doesn't seem to have anything ending it there. You just gain 20 armor MR every second while enemies are afflicted. And it doesn't say 20 armor MR while enemies are afflicted. It's not just like this is an efficient item with 20 armor MR on top. It's just an item that seems to give you 20, then 40, then 60, then 80, then 100, like stacking for a very, very long amount of time, which seems like a very absurd amount of durability. And those numbers seem pretty extreme. So like we can see Cursed Demon Helm looking at the just generic stat value of this, right? Buying AP and health, it's pretty close. You wouldn't buy this by itself. But it, of course, has the burn, and it has 20 armor MR. And realistically, you're going to pretty much instantly gain this in any kind of champion combat, so it's automatically 120% gold efficient. And it just gets better from there. So this item seems very absurd. Cool to see that. So there's more going on in the video, though. And, of course, we've kind of talked about some of this stuff in the previous video, that we're getting mythics, which seems pretty cool. We're going to get legendaries. Basically, they have kind of codified every item into a tier. So there's basic components. There are epic items, which is, simple combines, things that we already know about, Arm Guard and Fiendish Codex and Lost Chapter and Serrated Dirk and Caulfield's Warhammer, right? Those are epics. They are turn a longsword and a ruby crystal into phage, right? That's an epic. It is any mid-tier upgrade. And then there also are legendaries, and legendaries are things like Zonias and Deathcap and Infinity Edge, and all of which seem to be legendaries and not mythics. And they are, the items that we all normally build, Sterix Gauge and Maw of Memortius and all these other items that, build out and cost about 3,000 gold. And then from there, and you can stack whatever legendaries you want, right? You're probably going to have 4 legendaries in any given game. And then you're going to have a mythic. Right, mythics are, you have one. You are allowed 1 mythic per game. A lot of them seem to have overlap. So, Gale Force, Behemoth Slayer, and Crimson Shieldbow all have very, very similar stat lines. They have the same cost, but you're choosing which unique passive and which unique active you want, and that's your choice among mythics. And they're very efficient, and, hopefully enough power is in the active and the unique passive, or the mythic passive, that they actually feel differentiated. And that's the goal, right? Is that enough of the power is in the passive and the active that it feels like it's a different item, that your game is going differently and you're going to move on like that. So the last thing I'm going to bring up here, a couple of the screenshots as we, let me close some of these out. There we go. Is I cropped together the screenshots of all the items that they showed. So this is all the AP items. And what you can see here, by the way, at the very top, is that there's 5 tabs, right? There's what functionally feels like fighter. It may be assassin as part of this. I'm not sure. There's marksman. There's mage. There's tank. And there's enchanter. Now, I'm going to guess, because one thing they talked about when they talked about Demon Helm was fully realizing non-mana AP champions, similarly like AP bruisers, so that every single game that you're playing Singed, you are not literally always Riley's Leandries. And as Lilia, you are Runic Echoes into Leandries into just generic tank items. And to a certain point, that's fine, by the way. We talked about this in the last video about this, that it's okay to be like, well, my job is to frontline sometimes. Well, we have tank items for that. We don't need them to have AP on top. Make your own decisions. I think that's totally reasonable. That's totally fair. But they're trying to get items that let you build some AP. Now, what's interesting is this item is theoretically totally solid on top lane Maokai or jungle Zac or something to allow you to play some level of hybrid. A Mumu jungle is a really big deal of champion that really likes to build some level of AP. And Riot can tune AP ratios appropriately, same as they've done for Gragas over the years, to say, okay, like, as long as once you finally have reasonable AP frontline items, yes, balance them the right amount to make sure that they're fair on Vladimir and whatnot, but they can tune AP ratios on all these champions to make Demon Helm reasonably fair on a Mumu or whoever else. So we're going to try to get there. That sounds interesting. So a couple things I've looked at here. So we're going to go to this screenshot first, okay? I did the math. I counted, basically. There are 22 mythic items in this screenshot. And mythic, obviously, denoted by the thing up here. Also, they all have this sort of crown over them. There are 22 mythic items. Now, there are 5 tabs here, which tells me there's about 4 to 5 items per tab. In fact, I'm going to guess, by the way, there's going to be some level of overlap. That in this screenshot, they've clicked AP items. So these are the 6 mythics that give ability power, right? I'm just assuming these are all the items that give ability power and mana, basically. Because I'm going to assume that, like, Tear and Sapphire Crystal, right? Like, that's just the recipe. You just turn a Sapphire Crystal into a Tear and move on. Right, some of these are mana items, some of these are AP items, right? None of them are health regen, right? There's not a Ruby Crystal in sight here, despite the fact that Ruby Crystal is probably building into Leandry's Torment up here. I'm gonna guess, probably the case, that seems like a decent chance. But they have really said, no, these are the AP and mana items. That is what the Mage tab does. It is all the items with AP and or mana on them. And worth noting out, there are 3 items that are 3,400 gold and 3 items that are 3,200 gold. I'm going to guess that these 3 are the mana items and these 3 are the non-mana items. I know this is Rod of Ages with different colors. This is Leandry's Torment, but like here's Luden's Echo over here. As we saw earlier, right? Gale Force, right? The very, very similar marksman crit items all cost the exact same amount of money. I'm going to bet very strongly that they're going to very tightly class bind and say, okay, all of the Marksman Mythics are 3,400, and there's 3 of them. All of the Mana Mage Mythics are 3,400, and there's 3 of them. All of the non-Mana Mage Mythics are 3,200, and there's 3 of them, right? Here's Protobelt. It's a Mythic item now. Here's Rod of Ages, maybe without mana on it. I don't know. It's 3,200. Here is this other item I've never seen before in my life, and it's 3,200. It's probably not Demon Helm, because this doesn't seem to be a Mythic. In fact, I have no idea what Demon Helm would be here. I guess there are, 1, 2, 3, 4 AP 5 with Rylays, but like Rylays and Archangels are probably going to be the same items. So we have these 3 new items we haven't seen before. One of them is probably Demon Helm. Yeah, it's a legendary, right? It's like one of these is probably the Demon Helm here. And then there's 3 further non-mana mythic AP items. Because, maybe Maokai might go for an AP mythic. Right, he might go for fake Rod of Ages. Or he might go for Protobelt. I mean, Protobelt seems reasonable on a Mumu or Maokai or something. That seems doable, absolutely. Looking through, want to point out one thing. This actually might just be because the champion doesn't have Smite, but I don't see Runic Echoes here. We talked about that item earlier on Lilia. I don't see Jungle Enchants. That doesn't mean Jungle Enchants are gone, but I'm seeing starter items, and I see Doran's Ring and Spell Thieves. I don't see Hunter's Talisman. Again, might just not be in the shop because you don't have Smite. I know that as we look over here on a different screenshot, this, by the way, I feel like is Photoshop and not an actual in-game screenshot. That is my inclination based on the fact that these screenshots were all taken on the Falcon. You can see the backdrop here. That literally someone loaded in the game at level 1 and pressed P and looked at the shop and took a screenshot or scrolled through. In fact, if you watch the video, you will see SafeLock scroll through, or whoever recorded this scroll through, which is why I got these different shots. These were all just, you can see these are actually also, you can see the backdrop. This is the fountain underneath for the Demon Helm. This is overlaid over gameplay video. This was added like in post-production. This was added in post-production. This is added in post-production. And this also felt like someone took a screenshot of Summoner's Rift and then arted this in Photoshop. So I don't know how much this is going to actually be the case, but this doesn't, right? This is clearly a different shop from this, like to a certain degree, right? Even the fact that this Death Cap and this Zonia's and this Void Staff all have different art than this, where, where'd it go? Here's Death Cap, right? Here's Zonia's. I don't see where Void Staff is, but they all have different art, so, you know, where'd it go? Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic, but regardless, this is the actual in-game shop, right? This is actually like them using the thing. So let's get back on topic, right? So we have 22 mythic items, and this is the whole list of them. Here's the whole big chunk of mythic items. And we can see we have these 3 AP items that we talked about that are probably the manaless AP items. We have 1, 2... I don't see the third, because like Luden's, green item, and Liandry's. Liandry's, Luden's, and green items. These are the 3 AP mana items. We noticed that our AD carry mythics all have 3,400 gold cost as well. So it's probably the, you know, different colored Cursed Blade from TFT. I mean, it's also Durish Blade in Treeline, and fake Stormrazor and fake Madred's Razor are apparently the 3 Marksman mythics, right? They're 3,400. Notice that there's no other 3,400s other than the ones we actually saw from here are the AP mythics and here are the Marksman items. So, okay, Mana Mages and Marksmen have 3,400 gold mythics, right? These are 6 of them. We have the non-Mana Mages here at 3,200, but also we have what looks like 3 Assassin items at 3,200, right? The physical damage Mage champions have Duskblade of Drakthar and Yomu's and some unknown item. We have 3 Assassin mythics. And then we have 3,300 gold, which is only 2, right? We have just Sunfire Cape and some unknown item. Tanks seem to have 2 mythics, maybe. Maybe there's another one somewhere else. Maybe they do it differently, but it seems like there's only 2 tank mythics. On Enchanters, we have 3 mythics. We have Shirelia's and Locket, and what was formerly Elise's Miracle. There's no chance that's the item here. But we have 3 Enchanter mythics. We have 3 Manaless Mage mythics. We have 3 Assassin mythics. We have 2 Tank mythics. We have Trinity Force as its own cost, because of course it is 333. We have 3 Mage with Mana mythics. We have 3 Marksman mythics. And then we have, maybe just because of how the recipes went, but we have another Tank mythic, which is Righteous Glory. And then we have, I'm going to guess, based on just where the items went, and I don't actually know, by the way, this is, I truly do not know what the actual items are or anything else. I'm giving no new information other than my actual guesses. These look like fighter mythics. Like, I'm going to guess, right, the mythics all cost the same. For some reason, Righteous Glory costs 166 more gold than these, but I'm going to assume the Righteous Glory is the 3rd tank mythic. And then we have 3 fighter mythics, and really 4 because Trinity Force, right? Which means we have 3 mythics per class times 7 classes: Enchanter, Manaless Mage, Assassin, Tank, Mana Mage, Marksman, Fighter. And Trinity Force is the 4th one going into Fighter. Those seem to be the 7 classes that they are building around. Now, lots of fighters certainly use Manaless AP. So, you know, you're looking at things like Diana Vladimir. Diana can probably reliably get away with not building mana. Her builds tend to be that way. And fighters. So interesting to note, fighters actually have the most expensive mythics. And enchanters, for good measure, I think correctly so, have the least expensive mythics. Like, this seems to be intentional sort of binding here. What's also kind of interesting, and I kind of like this as well, is the tank mythics are on the cheap side, and this, only 400 away from enchanter mythics. And now, to be fair, like, Braum may well go Shirelia's or Locket, but, so might Janna. That's, like, pretty close together. That seems kind of fine. But, Nautilus support may say, you know what? 400 gold's not that bad. I'm going to go Sunfire. And I don't know what the stat binding on Sunfire is, but keep in mind that, like, mythics all have a mythic passive. They give you stats for every legendary, and legendaries, as we can see here, cost about 3,000 gold, right? So, I do like this, by the way. You can see like the vast majority of the items cost 25 to 300 or 25 to 3K. That means that you're looking at 4 legendaries in a mythic. That is very obviously a 15,000 gold build. Well, or 13,000 gold build plus boots. Okay, 14,000 gold. That is my total build. I like 2 things here. One, I like hard consistency. I'm actually a really big fan of mythics within a class costing the exact same amount of gold. That is a big deal to me, because here's something that I want to say about consistency, and I might go on this longer later on down the line. But consistency serves 2 big purposes to me. One, it helps people learn things, because if it all works the same, it's easy to understand. You don't have to relearn pieces. All the Zeal upgrades build out of Zeal. Cool. I know I can build a Zeal and figure it out later. Like, I know these items all serve me because they build out of Zeal, and I like attack speed and crit and move speed. Cool, let's go. Or as AD carries, my stuff all builds with BF swords. Okay, I built a BF sword. This is for me. It's a lot of raw attack damage. Cool. For assassins, everything builds out of a serrated dirk. Yes, it's attack damage and lethality. It's for me. These are stats that I want. Cool. Like, right? I can just buy a serrated dirk and then be like, oh, what are the other serrated dirk items, right? There's a lot of benefit out of that kind of flavor of consistency. The other benefit of consistency, and in things like cost as well, is it removes one extraneous decision point, right? You shouldn't be deciding to go between, Gale Force and Behemoth Slayer because they're 200 gold apart. Like, that is not why these items are different. These items are not different because one's cheaper than the other. That is not why this exists. It's actually part of why I've been sad for a while that Phantom Dancer has not cost the same amount of gold as the other Zeal upgrades. I think that finally changed last year when they remade Phantom Dancer to give it a shield. But for the longest time, Phantom Dancer was randomly the cheaper Zeal item, and it's like, why? This is definitely not an intended decision point. Just beef the cost up and give it 5% attack speed for all I care. But like, make it the same choice. Like, the more things you can make identical. I mean, and look at this. 60 AD, 20 crit chance, and a 10% attack speed difference is not that big of a deal, right? It's like, okay, maybe at some point you need to break it apart slightly because you really, really care. Crimson Shieldbow has lifesteal, so it has less attack damage. Like, okay, I can buy that. You added another stat, so you got to remove one to make it fair. Like, at a certain point, that's reasonable. And like, to me, 10 AD is a better choice than 100 gold or 200 gold. So anyway, real quick thing there. But again, the value of consistency is it says, okay, this is not where the decision lies. The decision is not in cost. The decision is not in build recipe. The decision is in the unique passive or the unique active or whatever else. So that's really cool to me, right? So I'm a really big fan of that. And you can see like there is a lot of pretty heavy consistency here. There is, I actually wrote it down. There are 6 different 3,000 gold items. Just in AP. Just in AP, there's 6 that cost 3,000 gold. Like, half of these at Legendaries cost the exact same amount of money, by the way. And then one of them that doesn't is Magi's, which is like, of course, right? Like, that's super cool. I mean, in here, you've got like, what? There's 11 in a row, by the way. So 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 16 3,000 gold items. And yeah, you're not going to probably have, I don't know, Deathblade in the same build with Nashers, probably. But like, the idea I think is really, really sound of just saying, look, legendaries cost 3,000, ish. Like, I wouldn't mind Riot trying to further reshape these items and being like, nope, all the marksman items cost 3K. All the tank items cost 3K. All the mage items cost 3K. This is the stat line. Or if they're like, actually, tanks earn less gold than other classes, which is true, right? You don't last hit. It's often harder to, you don't last hit champions. It can be often harder to lane. You are often a split pusher. You are TPing into fights. You are sacking farm. Okay, yes, the tank mythics cost less than the mage mythics. Well, except the manaless ones for some reason. Right, I wouldn't mind the manaless mage mythics, by the way, costing the same as the mana mage mythics, because then again, you're kind of giving a decision point here that I don't think is necessary. But the idea that tanks are on the cheaper end, whereas the like dedicated split pushing fighters and marksmen and mana using mages, right, like the big gold classes, yeah, they have the expensive ones. That makes sense, right? Right, changing it when it makes sense. Anyway, so what else do we have here? Well, okay, we again talked about the fact that we have 22 mythics, 6 of which give AP. We roughly broke that down. Okay, I'm like going through, like right over here, I have a like a list of things written down of topics to cover. Yeah, Shirelia's Locket and one other support item. We got that one. There's 11 more, including Trinity Force and Righteous Glory. Right, we know we have Duskblade and Yomu's, Fighter, Tank, Assassin, all the classes. There are 63 legendaries on this shop, by the way. 63. So there's a lot of these. And I want to point out a couple of outliers. You can see here that we have very obvious support item legendaries, right? We've got Redemption and Mikhail's and something else for supports, and Ardent Sensor. Riot tends to do a pretty good job of not reusing art if the item isn't at least similar. So in general, this seems to be pretty close. Right away, I'm not initially seeing Athene's in this, although I might have missed it. We do have other favorites like Knight's Vow are still here. We have a different Rod of Ages. This might be real Rod of Ages. Let's see if we go to the AP only slot. We have 2,500 gold, like regular purple Rod of Ages, and we have random green Rod of Ages, which is like maybe the Manaless Roa, who knows? Just again, it's got the same picture, so it makes me look at it. Maybe they'll get new art at some point, who knows? Right, we still have Abyssal Mask. Abyssal Mask is not a mythic, apparently. Banner of Command is back. Thornmail is in. Knight's Vow is in. Same cost as Thornmail. That feels pretty good. Randuin's. And so again, the points I want to bring up, right, is like, I don't like, for example, Thornmail and Randuin's and Dead Man's Plate all costing the same, like, different amounts of money, and then Frozen Heart over here at 2,500, right? Like, this is why consistency is good, is I want to choose among Frozen Heart and Thornmail and Randuin's and Dead Man's Plate. Not because one is cheaper, not because I want to do math behind like what's better between 40 health and 60 armor and 250 health and 80 armor, but what is the passive, right? The exact same decision as the mythics give me. I want that decision for legendaries in a lot of the cases as well, at least within reason. If there does need to be some shifts around because they get active better than other, yeah, of course, you can move things around a little bit. But in general, like that feels, I don't like the idea of having to like I just want the decisions to be interesting, and the decisions are the actives, right? I tend to not want to bloat that somewhat, but again, this is pretty cool. We can see the items here. Think about your favorite class. What are the champions that you play? Are there any items missing here? We know we have Duskblade and Yomu's. We've got Umbroglaive here. We've got Edge of Night here. So all the lethality items are the same, and we've got a new lethality mythic, seemingly. Seeing that we have the stat binding. As far as tank items, we still have our Stone Plate. We've still got Force of Nature added, by the way. I don't know if this is going to be similar to the old Force of Nature from way back when. Old Force of Nature, by the way, very, very bad item. Not a good item at all. You really don't want to buy Old Force of Nature. But Spear Vision is still here. Randuin's, Warmog's, Dead Man's Plate still here. Knight's Vow is in. Thornmail's still here. Banner of Command is back. Abyssal Mask is still here. Frozen Heart, Zeke's. Also, we've got like this sort of mid-tier of tank-ish items, right? 2,400 for Zeke's, 27 for Knight's Vow is a bit high. We randomly have this another icon from TFT, the Disarm Blade. We'll see what that ends up being, but it's kind of cool. You can kind of tell in some cases by the costs where items came in. This seems to be a legendary tier, right? Fairly cheap enchanter item, and Athene's is gone. Okay, fair enough. Infinite is still here. Essence Reaver is still here, but Stormrazor got taken and is now a mythic. So Stormrazor as an item seems to be gone. Hurricane's still here, and Rapid Fire Cannon still here, but Static Shiv is gone. To be fair, no one buys Static Shiv, so I get it. Phantom Dancer is gone, and is instead replaced by the cool bow that gives you a shield, which is this guy, Crimson Shield Bow. Makes total sense to me. Right? That's a cool place to put the item, right? Phantom Dancer does feel like, because the item was practically mandatory, right? Buying Phantom Dancer was in pretty much every marksman build. Want to point out Death Stance is still here. That's also in like every marksman build. I guess sit here and just like talk about the items that are and aren't here forever. But I just kind of want to point out, like, this is the kind of situation we're in, is we've got obviously some new items. We're seeing the icons here. Interesting to see. So I'm going to kind of pare down a little bit and look at specifically the AP items here, okay? Because it's a little bit more understandable and we can see what they actually are. So, okay, we have support and lane as our starter items here with Spell Thieves and Doran's Ring. Interesting to see that for whatever reason, Dark Seal is not part of the starter set. I'm not sure why. I don't know if they're making changes to make it not a good starting item or what. They are keeping the exact same mana components. They're not even changing the sizes of them, at least not in the screenshot. As we can kind of tell from this, right? They clearly intend to replace some of the art, and yet in this shot, none of the art's replaced. So, who knows? But none of this is different, right? Assuming this was recorded anywhere recently. These are all kind of the same. There are some changes though, right? Tier is 400 gold, and I don't believe this is they bought a sapphire crystal and then it's 400 upgrade. Tier just doesn't have fairy charm in it anymore, assuming tier is the same item. Sheen is obviously quite a lot cheaper, right? It's what, a good 350 gold cheaper. I think it's 1050 for the item. So like maybe there's no CDR on Sheen anymore, and it's just mana and Spellblade. We have got Forgotten Idols, the same item. Nomai's Medallion is back as something else. I don't know what that's going to be. Assuming we're going to keep Shield and Heal Power. We're going to keep Magic Pen. We're going to keep CDR. We still have Lost Chapter. I'm curious what this is going to be. What item is this? What other stat bind are we getting? Because it's clearly, right, you're almost certainly upgrading this out of components and making an epic. What is this item? In all of these items that we've seen so far that we know what they are, they've always built out of components. Because you have big things like Needlessly Large Rod. That is clearly more expensive than an epic item, and yet is its own item. So I'm assuming that every epic must be a build path item. So Sheen is probably still Mana Crystal. Or, maybe it could, go back to being Amp Tome into upgrade. Like, that's, I guess, possible. But then it means Triforce's AP on it. That feels kind of weird. And yet Triforce is nowhere in this, right? Right, Sheen goes into Lichbane, but there's no Triforce in the AP stat lines, which means this is probably not an AP item that builds into Triforce. So, trying to deduce some things, right? Worth noting, Arm Guard is cheaper. It's probably just -1 Cloth Armor, right? It's probably just worth noting, by the way, Cloth Armor is not in the basic components because we didn't click the tank tab here. But this is almost certainly Amp Tome plus Cloth Armor becomes Arm Guard. We've still got the Revolver. We've still got Ether Wisp. We've still got Fiendish Codex. We've got a new item here for 1250. I saw in a Reddit comment the idea of it being the same size as Last Whisper, that it was the build into for Void Staff. I didn't see any text that said that, but I saw it in a Reddit comment and it was upvoted, so maybe that's true. I actually don't know, but this is Last Whisper size, so maybe this is double Amp Tome plus Recipe is 15% Void Staff. But we still have Last Chapter. We still have Catalyst. And we know we still have Rod of Ages. This I'm pretty sure it's just up-arted Rod of Ages. It's about the right cost for it as well, so this is still here. We still have Haunting Guys, and we still have Leandries here, so this seems possible. Although, right, we expect one of these to be Cursed Demon Helm, which seems to pretty clearly also build out of Haunting Guys, so who knows where that one's going. Haunting Guys is the increased damage over time item, so this maybe doesn't build out of Haunting Guys, it just has the Leandries burn on it, so who knows what it actually is. But, cool to see, worth noting. Missing here are the components, a lot of the components that you would see of the tank items, of the non-mana AP stuff. Like, I imagine Kindle Gem still builds into Proto Belt, and yet, we don't have a Fiendish we don't have a Kindle Gem here. So, it's not every component you will ever buy in these champions, but this is still pretty solid. Cool to see. This very much looks like Negatron Cloak, and yet this seems to be a different item. Because if it was just pure MR, this wouldn't be here. So who knows what this item is? Who knows what this item is? Who knows what Nomai's Medallion is? Manager and AP, who knows? But this is what we're looking at, right? This is what you're looking at with this kind of shop. Of course, you could check to look, go over to tank, go over to enchanter. But yeah, you can kind of see that there's not that much different, right? This looks pretty similar. You got pretty similar things. Worth noting that whatever this thing is, this 1,000 gold legendary, you look at Magi's, right? Magi's is very conspicuously the cheapest legendary here because it's some kind of special upgrade that you only buy in situational situations. Great, thanks, Phreak. But it's the Dark Seal upgrade, right? When you have Magi stacks, assuming this is the same item. So whatever this is probably in a similar situation where it's like a Magi's-esque upgrade. Maybe they're actually going to do... technically Sword of the Occult exists, or that's Sword of Divine. Like, I don't know, maybe it's randomly Sword of the Occult, and they actually have an attack damage version of Dark Seal or something, and that upgrades into this item. I don't know, maybe. Who knows what it is? But they didn't scroll any farther down. They never showed us all the generic epics, all the generic components. They just showed us all the mythics. So I'm actually pretty confident that these are what the 22 mythics are, right? And that we paired them out appropriately. It's 3 for all the 7 classes. And then Trinity Force for good measure to feel good for fighters. And so there's basically 4 mythics for fighters. I am probably going to assume that these are fighter items. That just makes sense to me because I couldn't pair it down from anything else. And Triforce is left alone, so what else could it be? Seemed likely to me. And then otherwise, what else we got going on here? I'm not sure there's much else to cover. that's pretty much what we've got going on, I think. Not much else I wanted to really ramble on about. I hope this was kind of interesting, kind of a fun walkthrough. Again, you can, stare at the screenshot and compare and contrast if your favorite items are still here or are gone. I'm curious what those partial reworks are. One thing that was in the video was said is that 1/3 of the items are going to remain at pretty much the exact same item, which makes sense. 1/3 are going to be sort of subtly reworked in that they're going to be, I think Steric's Gauge was mentioned as like, it's Steric's Gauge. It's still, the same item, but it's more focused around team fighting. So somehow there's going to be some team fight output there where it's less of a 1v1 item. And we can clearly see, actually pretty sure, looking for, Steric's Gauge in fact still exists at 3,000 gold, as does Ma still. So, hey, those are still around. And then 1/3 items are going to be brand new, and instead, pieces are going to be replaced. Like Static Shiv is gone. But Blade of the Ruin King, I believe, is still here, and Rage Blade's still here, and Ezreal is still here, and yet we also are still getting Behemoth Slayer. So we still get this item even with Blade of the Ruin King existing, right? So there's going to be some level of overlap where it's like, well, this is clearly a Blade of the Ruin King, synergy item. It's very clearly a Rage Blade synergy item. Let's see where this goes. So a lot of fun stuff going on here. Pretty interesting stuff. Overall, I'm excited. Still am. I am curious to see more improved art over time because very clearly there's art they haven't shown us. These all look the same, but this Doran's Ring looks a whole lot newer. This Void Staff, right? This Zhonya's, this Ryleigh's, this Death Cap, this Merlinomicon, this Protobelt is the same, to be fair. Also, of note, this Protobelt doesn't have a Mythic flag over it, and yet we know Protobelt is a Mythic, so more reason to believe this is a Photoshop job and not what the thing actually looks like in-game. But, I'm excited to see new art. Always enjoy that. And, yeah, should be fun. Should be really fun. Looking forward to the new season. We'll get more information over the course of time. I hope this is useful. Hope this video was fun and interesting and useful. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.